welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and always a delight when we have time together with Richard Lyons. He's a world historian, third-generation printer, publisher, and has been involved in publishing for a long time, along with stage and television production. He is the author of The DNA of Democracy, which is a great book, Volume 1. His latest book is titled Passage Through the Shadows, Volume 3, and there's a picture of the cover of that book on the screen. Fascinating stuff that really enlightens you. He does have a website, richardclyons.com, and there's a picture of the webpage with all the books and information on it. Hey, buddy, good to see you. How you doing, Richard?
Oh, great to see you, Perry.
So where do we start with the presidential 6,000 EOs? Which one you want to talk about?
The one that's driving the Democrats craziest.
Well, that's 5,999 of them.
But it's all really. I'm so happy to be with you this morning. It's all really very telling of what my books are about. Principally, the one right behind me here, Shadows of the Acropolis, which details how the Democrat Party, by design, took power away from states and localities, and stowed them all in Washington, and then in Washington took powers away from our representatives and stowed them in an unresponsive, unenumerated, unelected administrative state. So whenever Trump goes and pokes one of their agencies, as he's doing across the board now, whether it's for their budgets and how they're wasting money, or whether it's overreach into persons' liberties, these are things that are going to get a reaction from the Democrats for a reason. They built a federal castle with walls, right? And now Trump is climbing those walls like Reagan tried to do, but Trump is succeeding.
We all knew that and thought that there was corruption in Washington. We had no idea that it was this bad.
Yeah, well, part of the formation of what they built over 100 years was FDR's legacy of creating these agencies. And it's the redistribution of all the nation's wealth through one treasury, right? And it bestowed largesse largely on Democrat constituencies. The money goes from the whole country to Washington, D.C., and then is redistributed to specifically Democrat constituencies. And so the best example of that, which is what metastasized during LBJ's takeover of education, is the teachers union. Money goes from all over the country, goes to Washington, D.C. A massive amount goes to the education department. The education department funnels it to administrators and teachers. Teachers donate to the Democrat Party. So it's in fact giving the money to themselves through a circuit of loyalty.
Given that point, Richard, do you think the DOE is going to be dissolved, and can it be dissolved?
Well, I think, Perry, your listeners, and I think yourself, obviously, and I have been alarmed at how, in addition to channeling money to itself and creating a loyalist base, which is one thing, when you start to indoctrinate students who are too young to know better, and they start the indoctrination from first grade as to how to feel about your country, how to feel about yourself, how to feel about your history. All these things were ideologically driven through the education department to fragment our country, to give it a population that didn't believe in it, and that believed rather in socialism and in all the oppression that that breeds. So it's very dangerous, and I think it is emblematic of how power was taken from parents in every locality in America, every state in America, pushed into one agency in Washington, D.C., with the control of one party over it for most of its existence. And what happens when that corruption occurs? And it's why parents were waking up. It's why the FBI was investigating them. It's why the IRS probably has files on them. Why Christians are being attacked or were being attacked. Thank heaven for Donald Trump.
So, Richard, does the president have the power to eliminate an agency such as that?
Well, one of the great Achilles heel with what the Democrats created is that most of these agencies exist under the executive branch. They wanted it in one place. They wanted to make decisions through one office, and that's the executive office. So what used to be a decision made by parents with administrators of schools, with the teachers of those schools, say it's in Paducah, Kentucky, or wherever, Springfield, Missouri, those decisions were taken into one agency in Washington, D.C. Every state has an office of the Department of Education in it to make sure that the states comply with the dictates of that agency. But if you cut the head off, right, and I think it within the power of the executive branch, because that's where they put it. That's where they put all the power. I think it's doable. I think it's remarkable, revolutionary, and in tune with the original design of our nation, the way it was built.
That's good to know.
We're going back. We're going back to our Constitution.
Yeah.
Which is needful. I mean, concentration of power is the enemy of free people. Anytime you concentrate wealth and power, you're taking it away from people who our Constitution designed should have it.
So you know that the lawsuits are going to fly, which are nothing more than distraction. But a judge,
Yes.
when a lawsuit is filed, the judge has to respond. He either accepts the case or rejects the case, he or she. If they accept
Yes.
the case, then they have to make a decision at that moment what they're going to do, which usually means a suspension for time. So something as
Yes.
big as the DOE, given what you just said, it will have to go to the Supreme Court, don't you think, to be interpreted according to the Constitution?
Yes, and I think the argument on our side, well, first of all, they're going to do this all across the board. The Democrats are. It is their defense. They have to go judge shopping, and they have to present their case based on what their argument will be. I'm not sure. On our side, we have to rely on the 9th and 10th Amendment, which secured that, and the enumeration of our government. The administrative state is a non-enumerated power. It exists nowhere in the Constitution. So to say that they should have power by itself is a bad argument. But the 9th and 10th Amendment said that anything not described in this Constitution as a power belonging to government belongs to the people in the states. Right? And that should be relied upon. Okay. Since when did our Constitution say all the power over education ought to be in one place, Washington, D.C.? That it is anathema to our constitutional order as it was writ.
A couple of other things. As we now know through all these EEOs, DEI has been wiped out, or at least from the agencies. It's in the process.
Yes.
He pulled from the Paris Climate Accord, and he took a swing at WHO, the World Health Organization. We are out. Are we back in that one?
He's considering it. When you think about the Paris Agreement and WHO, there again, powers belonging to a nation are being offloaded to international bodies, which should not determine what the people of America should be doing. The reason we have nations is because you need to be represented at that level. It's already at the extremity. We should not be offhanding decisions about America to Brussels. That should not happen. DEI, we're watching it being dismantled.
yesterday, public broadcasting said there was going to shut down its DEI program and other agencies. In the meantime, it's still alive in corporate America, but the pressure to get rid of it. Do you think DEI is DIE?
That was well put. That, again, was a method of indoctrination. There are three things. Critical race theory was trying to get indoctrination into grade schools. DEI was trying to get ideology throughout the government. Again, ways of dividing our country, again, a means of making persons disbelieve in their foundations, in constitutional government, in our republic, in our history, in our heroes. And it was a means of doing so through university complexes, through the DOE, and then they got corporate buy-in. Well, if you want government contracts, Apple Computer, you need DEI, otherwise you're not getting the contract. It's that kind of coercion. Another system that I hope is coming down is called ESG, economy and social awareness and governance. This was directing all the investable capital in America to approved investments in tandem with the Green New Deal. So that if you are an institution that is, say you're a brokerage, you handle a lot of institutional customers, like a union's pension fund. You must direct through ESG that fund's investable capital into companies that are approved by whom? The Democrat Party, the liberal agenda, the socialist future. So this is excellent. CRT, I hope, is being rooted out, and it's another reason to take out the Department of Education. DEI is being rooted out of government now. I hope that expands through corporate America and through the university system. And ESG, we need to get rid of that as being, there is more to think about than what's good for your shareholders and customers. We have to think about whether we're pleasing to the socialists.
Wow. Okay. Things are happening so fast.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. It really is. I mean, it appears to me the left has been, their boat has just gotten shot full of holes, and they're taking on water pretty fast here, and it's amazing to watch. On another note, as you know, Sunday, the president, on his way to the Super Bowl, flying over the Gulf, signed the executive order to rename it the Gulf of America. Yesterday, as Secretary Hegseth was flying on a military aircraft to Germany, signs an order to rename actually from Fort Liberty back to Fort Bragg, and now they're talking about Mount McKinley. There seems to also, in the middle of all this, to take national monuments and names and to reset them, because most of them have to do with people in history, not just names of things. That's pretty refreshing, don't you think?
I see where you're going, and this is what we're seeing today, and only Trump could have done it, in my view. Only he could have done it, was to point out how far the left has gone in combating our history, our heroes, our Constitution, our very sense of jurisprudence and justice. They had gone, again, Perry, it's been 100 years they've been building stone by stone, but incrementally, this edifice of the administrative state that, 435 agencies that determine a great deal of how we're governed. And he exposed how it was corrupted when Obama started attacking the Tea Party, when he started attacking the Little Sisters of the Poor, when he went after journalists. Then Trump comes in, and they know what a threat he is. He's like Reagan on steroids because his background is so diverse and knowledgeable. And so they had to attack him. And how did they do that? They perverted our system of justice to do it. They perverted the FBI, the CIA, the DNI, all the intelligence and law enforcement apparatus of our country, and then got through lawfare, they got judges to persecute him when he was out of office. They tried to get him out of office by a coup. When he was out of office, they tried to throw him in jail. It's remarkable. Now he's come back into office, and everybody's breathing a sigh of relief because we can again believe in our history. We can be Christians again. How about that idea?
Yeah, what a nice thought.
He pardoned persons who believed in a right to life and were merely there to state as much outside an abortion clinic. They were thrown in jail. And so to renew our belief in our heroes, our faith in ourselves and our faith, this is a remarkable comeback.
All right, let me take a quick break. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, check out Richard's books, the one right behind him there, The Shadows of Acropolis. You can check that out. Passages Through the Shadows, Volume 3. These are all available online. Go to his website, richardclyons.com, and check that out. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Always an honor to have with us Richard Lyons. Check out his books. You can go to richardclyons.com. Quite a few out there. You want to check out The DNA of Democracy, Volume 1, all the way up through his current one, which is Passage Through the Shadows, Volume 3. And then, of course, The Shadows of Acropolis is a good one, too. They're all great, talking about exactly what we're talking about right now. Check it out online by Richard C. Lyons. Richard, the president is pretty well known from his apprentice days. You're fired.
Very effective.
Well, it seems like it's in every other sentence that he mentions these days. Who thought that he would fire the board of the Kennedy Center? He went after the FEC chair, fired her. He's got to look at FEMA for what they did in the last couple of weeks, $59 million for illegals inside five-star hotels. I mean, where's this going to end?
Well, I've been personally affected by FEMA. I can be a witness to this, that Hurricane Helene and Milton came through back to back and flooded my little cottage twice. And I've been dealing with FEMA all these months, and I've arranged for an inspector to come by multiple times, and no one has shown up. So I did have a Trump sign on my yard. I don't know if that had an effect. But no, I think this is another thing the Democrats do. They take money purposed to one thing and then bankrupt that thing and take the money and put it somewhere else. FEMA is designed for national emergencies, not for caring for persons from other countries. I agree that President Biden, perhaps the worst president in American history, designed this emergency in America's inner city. He designed that these cities should be run by drug cartels. He designed that there should be human trafficking and drug dealing. This is by design. You leave open a border and create sanctuary cities all over the country where the wrongdoers are actually protected by the authorities. It's an abomination, but it points up again. They don't care how money was purposed. They don't care about the American people. They care about driving down our throat. Socialism. They want to drive it down our throat.
Do you think FEMA will be eliminated?
I think FEMA, its purposes are excellent. I think when you have devastating fires in California or devastating floods in Louisiana, it is a part of our charitable nature and design that we should come together. It's like an enemy invasion, isn't it? That again, the border. Yeah. That we should collect together for the common good to help those areas. If there was an earthquake in St. Louis, I mean, the government, federal government, has the capacity to help.
Were you surprised, knowing you probably weren't, but I think most of us were surprised of how corrupt U.S. aid became.
Yeah,
we had no idea that this was going on there.
Again, this is, but I think you'll agree with me, Perry. Thank heaven for your show. These things have to get out. They have to be publicized. Wherever Doge goes, like an antiseptic, we have to let the sunlight in. We have to know all the numbers. And Doge should be publicizing on your network and on every network all the savings on a daily basis being created. And they should translate that as being savings for every taxpayer in America. And we should watch that balance go up and up and up as we're watching the intrusion in our lives going down from these agencies. And these should both be publicized. This U.S. aid is a scandal. And I understand from Mark Rubio in an interview that I saw that they were merely trying to maintain their oversight over that agency, and the agency told them they had no right. Is that right? They have no right to be overseen. This is governance by agency. It is corrupt. It's antithetical to our Constitution.
What do you think? What do you think? I only have a few seconds left here, but what do you think about? We saw Colombia send airplanes to pick up some deportees. Last couple of days, Venezuela sends over an airplane to pick up deportees. Yes. You got Marco Rubio, unbelievably, already making deals, and got Panama kind of heading in the right direction, all within about 3 weeks.
Yes, and I think a great idea as to how to deal with this situation beyond the persons here who are committing crimes, and they should be the first to go, is to stop up the funding out of Washington. Stop the funding out of FEMA going to hotels housing migrants. What we should do is, instead of paying these people to stay, we hand them an airline ticket to go.
Okay. Well, it's happening.
Stop up funding.
It's just happening. So, other quick questions. Did you ever realize that Panama was a problem? That Greenland could become a lot line adjustment to Maine?
Well, as to Panama, we have legal rights there that they have skirted to get into business with China. And China, you're always going to have adversaries, enemies. And they will always test you. And it is perfectly right, as a matter for the commander-in-chief of this nation, to say our treaty with you from 1977, written into by Jimmy Carter and his administration, is written on paper with ink, and you have to abide it, or the treaty we cannot consider any longer exists. And there are remedies that the United States can effect. So what has Panama done? They've already gotten out of China's Belt and Road Initiative, which is their means of taking over other countries by creating their infrastructure and creating debt between them. And the two ports that firm in Hong Kong, which is to say the CCP, were running on either side of the Panama Canal, they're now throwing them out. So they're doing this as an emergency necessity, I think. But Trump is perfectly right with regard to Greenland. You don't want the Chinese and Russians there.
Yeah, this is just absolutely amazing to watch. You kind of ask yourself what's next. But over the weekend, or actually in the last 24 hours, he has given Hamas until noon Saturday. Now, that's him in the United States. That's not Israel. But I can't help but think that Netanyahu's going to come to some kind of a conclusion, again, that the president's right. I guess the president has his eye on Gaza, some kind of a development program.
That was remarkable. A new Riviera. He needs buy-in from the Sunni states of the world. That's what the Abraham Accords are about balancing against Iran. He needs buy-in for that. It cannot be but agreed by everybody who knows anything about Middle East history that to fund both sides of a conflict and to try and create a two-state solution where one of the states doesn't believe the other state should exist, these are impossible terms for peace. So something definitely has to be done.
One last quick question, Richard. Were you or are you surprised that in all of the Middle East conflict that Egypt was so complicit?
Yeah. Do you mean going back to the initial war of 1948, Harry?
Well, no. I mean, all the tunnels that were supplying Gaza came from Egypt. Egypt won't accept any of these Palestinians to come back. I mean,
yeah.
They've been silently complicit to the problem.
Well, they're a country that is now run by its military. So, yeah, that's. I don't know how far diplomacy is going to reach. The Palestinian problem has been a problem between Gazans and Israel going back to David and Goliath.
You're right.
It goes back that far. Muslims don't believe the Israelis have a right to exist, and it's somewhat like socialists don't believe that there should be a commercial country and that it should be governed by a constitution.
Yeah. Richard, thank you for your time. You always give it to us when we call. We value it greatly. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, Richard does have a website, richardclyons.com. There's a picture of that landing page. He's quite the author and quite the series of books I think you'll find to be fascinating read. The Shadows of the Acropolis, there's that one. The latest one is Passage Through the Shadows, Volume 3. There's a picture of that one. These books are available online and through your site?
Yes, at richardclyons.com, Perry.
Okay, richardclyons.com. God bless you, pal. Good to see you. Stay in the fight.
Oh, great to see you, Perry. These are great days. We should enjoy them.
Amen.
Yeah.